we go, everybody. Another edition of Jamal About Sports coming to you on a Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. As always, I'm your host, Jamal Hayden. We have a big show to get to. We have NBA winding down as the Knicks have 3 more games and try to position themselves for the 2 seed, or at the very least maintain the 3 seed. We have Major League Baseball, 10 or so games in the books. We'll talk about some of the Mets' new additions and how they've fared so far. But we begin with college basketball. A couple of stories to get to there. First, of course, is Michigan win the national championship last night. I believe I had that, as Tony Kornheiser would say. Picked the Final Four correctly. If you heard our show from last week, Chuck and I made our predictions. I had the whole Final Four right: Michigan, UConn, Arizona, Illinois. And then I had Michigan and UConn in the finals and Michigan winning it all. Look, I'm not some genius. I don't pretend to be. I think, as we said last week, I don't really follow college basketball nearly as closely as I used to. But I did watch Michigan play a fair amount this year, and they just looked like a team to me with no weaknesses. They had great size. They had good athleticism. They had good guard play. They had guys that could shoot the 3, even though they didn't make any threes in the first half of the game last night. But hold on. We got to fix this microphone a little bit, don't we? There we go. All righty. And a really good coach. So, you could argue, you could make the argument that UConn perhaps was going to be a team of destiny after the miraculous win they pulled off against Duke. Flip side of that coin is they really probably shouldn't have won that game. And therefore, kind of didn't really deserve to be in the finals. Talked about Danny Hurley before. I'm not going to get into it again, only to say that not my favorite. So certainly not shedding any tears over the fact that UConn didn't win. Hell of a coach, no question. I mean, he is a great coach. Was this his 4th finals in the last 5 years? He is a great coach. I saw Jay Billis on Pardon the Interruption last week, and I guess they're very close. Jay Billis is a Duke alum. Obviously, Danny's older brother, Bobby, also a Duke alum. So I guess that's the connection there, how they know each other. And he vouches for him and says he's a great guy. Says he's a character, no question, but says he's a great guy. Obviously, we talked last week about the fact that his father, Bob Hurley Sr., is a legendary high school coach at I think it was St. Anthony's in Jersey City. So coaching certainly in the blood. Danny played basketball at Seton Hall. But look, total credit to Michigan and Dusty May, their coach, who, by the way, I just found out, and I think a bit of an underreported story, was a student manager for the University of Indiana basketball team when Bob Knight was the coach back in like 2000, 2001. Well, no, couldn't have been well, yeah, maybe I guess that was his last year there, right? Because, why can't I remember the guy's name now? Because when Maryland, my alma mater, beat Indiana in 2002, Mike Davis was the coach at Indiana then. So I guess 2000, maybe 2001 was Bob Knight's last year. In any event, he was a student manager, which myself, being a former student manager, I really appreciate. I was a student manager for the football team at University of Maryland, not the basketball team, but the football team. And I can tell you it's a hard job. You spend a lot of hours there because you got to get ahead of practice. You got to get there way before practice, and you have to stay way late after practice. Now, football is a little different than basketball because football has all the equipment, and that requires an extended period of time getting the equipment prepared, getting the field prepared, the various tackling dummies, and getting certain stations set up for the various position groups. That was a big part of our job. Obviously, making sure all the helmet, shoulder pads, pants, leg pads, all that stuff was set up in front of the guys' lockers, ready to go. And then taking all that stuff and doing laundry at night. I mean, it was tough. But you learn a ton about the sport. I mean, I played high school football, felt like I knew a fair amount of football, but I work for the offensive line. I learned a ton about offensive line play, just being at practice every day and listening to the offensive line coach coach these guys up on various techniques. And so Dusty May, what a great early education as a basketball manager, and obviously served him well because now he's the national champion, head coach of the national championship, Michigan Wolverines. So congratulations and good for Michigan. I know my man AD is thrilled. And credit to him because he is a rabid Michigan fan, has been on this team all year, has been telling me all year how good they were. And so I took a lot of his word for it, so to speak, in making my pick for Michigan to win the national championship as well. And he nailed it. He was all over it. Second story, college basketball, not a great one, was Geno Auriemma and UConn women, who wins all the time, it seems, and had, I think, a 38-game winning streak or something like that, snap when they lost to South Carolina in the semifinals. And then Geno just behaving badly after the game, very classless move, yelling at Dawn Staley, the South Carolina head coach, accusing a South Carolina player of ripping the jersey of a UConn player when that didn't happen. The UConn player herself was the one that ripped the jersey, and taking us for fools as if we didn't see this with our own eyes. And, you know, look, Geno Auriemma is inarguably the best women's college basketball coach of all time. I mean, what he's done at UConn is unprecedented. I mean, Pat Summitt was great. Dawn Staley in her own right is great. There have been others. But, I mean, nobody wins like he and UConn do. Having said that, he's a world-class jerk a lot of the time. And see, the thing is, it's all tolerated because he wins. And that's just kind of how it is as a society, particularly sports. I mean, you think if Tiger Woods was some, you know, average golfer who struggled to make some cuts and kind of was a journeyman and hung around for years, you think people would put up with this nonsense? I don't think so. But for some reason, we forgive a lot of sins if people win in their respective sports. It's strange. I mean, because I don't think Tiger Woods is a particularly likable figure at all. I don't think he has much of a personality. I mean, if you watch TGL and you see him try to pal around with some of the guys, I mean, it's laughable. It's almost painful because, I mean, you know, and look, I understand, I get it. He's lived in the spotlight his whole life. You know, a bit of a fraught, complicated upbringing with his father. I get all of that. But having said that, I mean, the answer is no, okay? If he was not who he was as a golfer, the public would have turned on him years ago. And so would the PGA Tour and all these people that claim to be so concerned about Tiger Woods and his well-being wouldn't give a rat's ass about Tiger Woods and his well-being if he was an average golfer. And so it's the same thing with Geno Auriemma. I mean, he gets to get away with acting like a bully a lot of the time because they win all the time. Now, he's been called on the carpet about this, thankfully. Wilbon, in particular, hammered him yesterday, and rightfully so. But, you know, PTI, I'm sorry, guys. You've had Geno Auriemma on your show a million times, and I've seen you guys laughing it up with him a million times. So, and this is not an isolated incident with Geno Auriemma, is the thing, right? He behaves like this, I'm not going to say all the time, but this is not the first time. And he's not the only one. I mean, we've seen this in college football also. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, Urban Meyer. I mean, these guys, they basically run the world. They run their own little world. They're beyond reproach. They can do whatever they want, say whatever they want. And as long as they win, nobody really cares. So Now, he kind of gave a non-apology, of course, at first. He's sort of come back to the pack here a little bit, been shown a little bit of contrition, but not much. And only after the fact that he was roundly criticized for his basic non-apology. So, and by the way, not that I pay any attention to it at all. I know it makes me a monster, but I'm just not interested in women's college basketball. But from what I saw, I mean, a very unappealing tournament. I mean, all these games were blowouts. I mean, South Carolina blew out UConn. Then UCLA blew out South Carolina. All these games were lopsided. There were hardly any good games from what I could tell. And then the last bit of college basketball news of note is that Mike Malone, former Denver Nuggets coach, who won a championship with the Nuggets in 2023, son of former longtime NBA assistant Brendan Malone, took the UNC job. Now, Michael Malone, last time he coached in college, he was an assistant in Manhattan about 25 years ago. Not known as a college coach at all. You know, most people thought Billy Donovan would be the choice there, which would make a ton of sense since he won 2 national championships at Florida. Granted, it was a long time ago now, but still had a long run as a successful college basketball coach. I get it. The landscape has changed dramatically, and that's probably part of the thinking here because college basketball, let's face it, is basically professional sports now. You know, with the transfer portal, which is essentially free agency, right? Kids don't have to sit out a year anymore. They can just bop around from school to school. And then with the NIL money, it is essentially pro sports. And so I guess that's the thinking here. Although they just hired a former pro coach for the football team, arguably one of the greatest pro football coaches of all time, and Bill Belichick. And how'd that work out so far, first year? Now, basketball is much easier to turn a program around than football because there's far fewer players. Pardon me for 1 second, folks. Got the Met game going on in the background. I had it on pause and forgot to put the mute on. So it's the beauty of doing a podcast from home. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, Michael Malone. So seemed like a strange hire. But again, maybe because college basketball is essentially pro basketball now, UNC feels like it makes a lot of sense to bring a guy in who was a successful pro coach. When the Knicks fired Thibodeau last year, inexplicably, by the way, I thought Mike Malone was going to be the guy because the owner basically came out and said, we're going to get to this in a little bit, getting to the conference finals, no, not good enough. We need to at least get to the finals. We want to win a championship, but the bar now is getting to the finals. Well, if you're going to replace Tom Thibodeau after he got you to the conference finals, in a season in which nobody expected the Knicks to get to the conference finals. They were a prohibitive underdog to the Celtics last year. Nobody gave him a chance, and they beat the Celtics. And it wasn't because Jason Tatum got hurt. He got hurt late in the last game. Then logic would dictate that the guy you're going to hire to replace him would be a guy who's won a championship, right? And there was Michael Malone just sitting there for the taking. Pretty sure his father, actually, Brendan, I'm pretty sure I know his father, Brendan Malone, was an assistant for the Knicks, too, so he's got some history with the organization. And yet, Mike Brown was the choice. I made my feelings about Mike Brown very clear. Very nice guy. It's okay, coach. It's okay. You know. I mean, kind of a retread. Supposed to have this great offensive system. There is no system. They don't run any plays. The Knicks don't run any plays. You would think that with Towns' skill set and Jalen Brunson's skill set, they would be a great two-man game, pick and roll, pick and pop combination. And yet, the Knicks hardly ever do that. They did it actually a little bit last night, and we'll get to the game in a second. And I guess we may as well segue into the NBA here. But they don't do it with any consistency. It's bizarre. Frankly, it's bizarre. And, you know, Thibodeau wasn't good enough last year. Well, the Knicks' regular season record is going to basically be the exact same as it was last year. Knicks have 3 games left. They've got Celtics, Toronto, and is it Charlotte? Let's take a look. I believe that is the case. Hold on. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, I like this new setup. This is good. I can go there and take a look. NBA. Let's do NBA. Let's go schedule, shall we? No, let's not do that. Let's go NBA. And then let's go teams. And that'll get me to where we need to get to. So, all right, here we go. Boom. Knicks have 3 games left. They've got, well, not your finest moment there, ESPN.com. Why wouldn't you just give me the schedule and not make me click around? Okay, here we go. So, home against Boston Thursday. Home against Toronto Friday. Home against Charlotte Sunday. All 3 are playoff teams. Charlotte's one of the hottest teams in the league now for the last 2 months, really. Already got pretty much handled by Charlotte the last time they played them. Granted, it was in Charlotte. So the Knicks are 51-28. So the best they can do is win 54 games. I think the Knicks won 51 games last year. Whatever. 2 or 3 games in a regular season, you know, not a big deal. The Knicks are not going to win all 3 of these games. Boston's going to play that game to win because right now they're ahead of the Knicks in the standings by a game and a half. So Boston's going to play to win that game. They're not going to rest anybody. Now, they might have, you know, maybe it's a load management game for Tatum because maybe the Celtics are playing the Wednesday night before. Probably not. Let's take a look. Let's see before we make any assumptions and see if the Celtics are playing, and we should see what their schedule is anyway, because there is a chance the Knicks could catch them for the 2 seed. It's an outside chance, but there is a chance. So, no, they play tonight against Charlotte, then so they have an off day. So, yeah, so unless anybody gets hurt in the game tonight against Charlotte, Boston's going to have a full boat against the Knicks on Thursday. Then they play home against New Orleans. That's a win. New Orleans stinks. And they play home against Orlando. Orlando has been a Jekyll and Hyde team all year. You would think they're going to win that game. So even if the Knicks win out, they're not going to catch Boston for the 2 seed. Now, the Knicks have Cleveland nipping at their heels for the 3 seed. And as it stands right now, the top 6 are Detroit, who's not getting caught. They're going to be the number 1 seed, more than likely. I mean, they have a 3-game lead with 4 games to go. Boston is the 2 seed. The Knicks are the 3. By the way, sorry, the Knicks are 3 games back of Boston in the loss column. So the Knicks would have to win out, and Boston would essentially have to lose out. Or they're 2.5 back because Boston has played 78 games. The Knicks have played 79 games. So the Boston has 1 more game left to go. So if Boston lost out and the Knicks won out, then the Knicks would have the 2 seed. That's not going to happen. Cleveland is right on the Knicks' heels. They're 50-29. They're a game back. Then you have the Hawks at 45-34. One of the hottest teams in the league. They were 18-2 going to the game against the Knicks last night before the Knicks beat them. Barely. And then Toronto and Philly are jockeying for that 6 seed and or the play-in. So right now, Toronto's a game up on Philly. Toronto's 43-35. Philly 43-36. But getting back to my larger point, you fired Thibodeau, you replace him with Mike Brown. The Knicks are essentially going to have the same regular season record this year as they had last year. So no improvement there. Now, I understand it's all about the postseason, and we'll get to that. But also, two of the Knicks' best players, or supposed best players, Karl-Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges, have regressed significantly this year under Mike Brown compared to how they played under Thibodeau last year. Towns, especially. Now, he's played a little bit better lately here, the last 10 games or so. But there are far too many nights where he is non-existent, where the Knicks make no effort to get him involved in the game. I mean, even against a horrendous Memphis Grizzlies team last week that literally was playing G League guys. I mean, there was not one NBA caliber player on the floor that night for Memphis. And the Knicks, they ended up pulling away late, but they had to play all their starters. And yes, Towns had a triple-double, but, I mean, that was a game he should have had like 40 points, and he had 20. Now, part of that's on him, no question, but I'm sorry. Part of this is on Mike Brown and the rest of that staff. I mean, they should just feed him. And the thing is, he's a good passer, as evidenced by that game. He had a triple-double. He will make the right pass. Sometimes he gets a little carried away, but if you double him, more often than not, he'll make the right pass. He had 6 assists last night in the game against Atlanta. Last year, he averaged 4 assists a game under Thibodeau. I think it's down to 3 or 2 or something this year. And Mikal Bridges, I mean, I've been talking about him all year. And there's just far too many games where he makes no impact. And the impact that he does make is negative. And I understand he played well in the playoffs last year, and that's why he got which now looks like a ridiculous extension for $150 million. So explain to me, if you're James Dolan, okay? Let's just say, for argument's sake, because right now, by the way, the Knicks look like a one-and-done team. They look like they are capable of winning a first-round matchup. And by the way, it depends on who they play. Right now, if they play the Raptors, I like their chances. It's a good matchup for the Knicks. The Raptors, yes, they were one of my sleeper teams this year. I was proven right. Now, I never said they were going to be great. I just thought that they would exceed expectations, and they have. Right? Let's say they win even one more game. They're going to win 44 games. Nobody expected them to win 44 games. But they're not a great team. They're a flawed team. When R.J. Barrett's your second-best player, you're not very good. And the Knicks know R.J. Barrett, obviously, inside and out, because he played for them. And so they know how to play him. They know how to take away his strengths. It's just a very good matchup for the Knicks, Toronto. So, yeah, they can beat the Raptors, no question. They getting out of the second round? Right now, no. I don't see it. So, if that happens, if the Knicks don't even get out of the second round, and you're James Dolan, and you issued a mandate, and you told the whole world that it was finals or bust this year, now what do? Do you go to Leon Rose and you say, okay, Leon, blow this thing up? Giannis Antetokounmpo wants the hell out of Milwaukee. Go get him. Now, is he the answer to the Knicks' problems at 31 years old and coming off 2 injury-plagued seasons? I mean, when he plays, he's still great, but a lot of tread on those tires. And what are you going to have to give up to get him? Is it going to be counterproductive? You're going to have to give him OG Anunoby and Josh Hart and Towns to get him. So now you're left with Jalen Brunson and Antetokounmpo and Mikal Bridges are your 3 best players? I don't think that's an improvement. Now, obviously, there would be other moves that the Knicks would have to make, but where do you go? If you're the Knicks, where do you go? If you get knocked out of the playoffs in the second round, even if you get knocked out in the third round, which is the same as last year, which apparently, again, was unacceptable. Here's an idea. Maybe you issue a mea culpa and you go back to Thibodeau and say, oops, my bad. Tom, can you come back, please? Pull a George Steinbrenner from the 80s when he rehired Billy Martin 4 times? I mean, I'm sure the Knicks would never do that. I'd be all for it. And I doubt that they would fire Mike Brown after a year in which the Knicks won 50-plus games. But, again, this is coming from the owner. I'm not the one that put these expectations on the Knicks. The beat writers didn't put these expectations on the Knicks. The owner did. Kind of painting himself into a little bit of a corner here. Now, as far as how the team is playing, it's not great. I mean, this is why I think that their ceiling is winning one round of the playoffs, and that's it. Yes, the record overall looks good at 51-28. They're pretty good at home at 28-9. But last night they beat the Hawks, and look, as I said, the Hawks were on a heater. They were 18-2 in their last 20 games. Not surprisingly, the second they got rid of Trae Young, that team started playing much better. Well, actually, not the second. It took them a little while. And when the CJ McCollum trade that they made really helped that team get some veteran leadership and presence in there, and he's played very well for them as well. Former Lehigh star. Obviously, longtime Portland Trailblazer. He and Dame Lillard were the dynamic duo in the backcourt there that, had a ceiling, right? They plateaued. They would win 50 games, maybe win a round in this playoffs, and ultimately end up getting bounced. Not his fault. I'm just saying that's what that team was. But a really good veteran pickup by the Hawks this year. It's really helped them. So good win for the Knicks last night. Started out pretty well, got down, looked really bad, got killed on the offensive glass, committed way too many turnovers and needless turnovers. I mean, dumb, inexplicable turnovers. Had nothing to do with what Atlanta was doing. It was the Knicks just being sloppy and playing sped up for no reason. And yet, Brunson got hot in the fourth quarter after having a very poor game. And by the way, he has not looked like his old self for about 2 weeks now. But then he turned it on in the fourth quarter. He had 17 points in the fourth quarter, made what proved to be the game-winning shot. It was not a good shot, by the way, folks. Dribbled around till the shot clock was running down, took an off-balance off the wrong leg, quasi-fadeaway elbow jumper from around the foul line, got a friendly bounce, and it went in. And then the Hawks, by the way, were a hair's breadth away from tying the game on a half-court heave from said C.J. McCollum, the aforementioned. But look, good win. It's the first time the Knicks have beat a team that's going to make the playoffs in 5 weeks. I mean, the Knicks had a ridiculous 8-game stretch against the Sisters of the Poor portion of the schedule, where they played teams that were that were tanking. I believe all of them were 20 games under 500 or more, except for Golden State. But the night that they played Golden State, which the Knicks barely won that game, by the way, it was disgraceful. Golden State didn't play anybody. No Draymond Green, no Steph Curry, no Porzingis. I mean, they were literally fielding a G League team. And the Knicks played with their food the whole game and then finally, pulled away late. But it was a disgraceful performance, and it was at home. It wasn't like it was in Golden State. And, by the way, Golden State popped you when you played them in Golden State. And Draymond Green punked Karl-Anthony Towns at the end of that game, and not one Knick player came to his defense, which I think tells you a lot about this team. I've been saying this all year. There is something off about this group. And look, again, I've said this. Karl-Anthony Towns is a good dude. I'm not trying to impugn his character in any way. But it does not, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm not inside that locker room. I don't know. And there haven't really been any articles written about it to my knowledge. But it appears to me he's not a great fit with the Villanova crew, which is Bridges and Mikal, Hart and Brunson. I mean, is he a supremely talented player? He is. But leaves you wanting something more. Bridges seems to be unhappy all season long, which is strange because he moaned and groaned about it playing too many minutes last year. Mike Brown has reduced his minutes this year, but not significantly, although he's been benched in the fourth quarter of a lot of games because he deserves to be, because his play has been poor. And I get it. They don't run any plays for him. But guess what? The Knicks don't run any plays at all, as far as I can tell. And that is supposedly a thing, is they don't really run plays. It's supposed to be this fluid offense where anybody could get, if you have a good shot, take it. Again, it works against the bad teams, of which there are many. We know this about the NBA. I mean, look at the standings right now. Wizards 17-61, Pacers 18-60. The Nets are 19-59. The Bulls are 29-49. I mean, the Knicks beat the Bulls by 40 points last week. The Bulls literally didn't try in that game. And the Bucks are 31-47. Now, at least the Bucks have some excuses in that Antetokounmpo missed a ton of time this year, and other guys that were good players for them missed time. I mean, and that's the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, Utah 21-58, Sacramento 21-58, Memphis 25-54. Again, they've had injuries all season long. New Orleans 25-54, Dallas 25-53. Golden State is going to be in the play-in at 36-42. Now, to be fair to them, they've had a lot of injuries too, most notably Steph Curry. But I mean, the NBA has a ton of really bad teams. We know this, the tanking teams. And then a bunch of mediocre teams like the Heat at 41-37 and Portland at 40-40. I mean, it's so a 51-28 record. Okay, it looks good on paper. When you peel back the onion a little bit, though, and you see how the Knicks actually have fared against the upper echelon competition in the league, it's not great. 0-3 against the Pistons. I think they maybe be even against the Celtics. Same against Cleveland. They have a good record against the Raptors. I think they swept them. I think they're 2-2 against Philadelphia. I mean, it's just they're not an elite team. Now, will I take this over the dreck that the Knicks rolled out there for about 15 years in a row, which was non-competitive, embarrassing basketball? Of course. But I don't see this team doing much damage in the playoffs at all. All right. Moving on. Let's turn our attention to Major League Baseball, where last week's show talked a little bit about the Mets. It was early. I think they had only played 6 games. Played 4 since. They're actually playing right now as we speak. Last I saw, they had a 2-0 lead with Peralta on the hill. Here's my issue with the Mets. So, look, they look terrible against the Cardinals. They look bad against the Pirates. Couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. I get it. It's early. It's 10 games. I understand. They took 3 out of 4 against what appears to be a hapless San Francisco Giants team. I mean, the Giants could not have played any worse in that series against the Mets. The Mets won the last 3 games of that series. Giants played terrible defense. They ran the bases poorly. Their pitchers walked a bunch of guys. I mean, they did everything losing teams do. They were terrible. Give the Mets credit, I guess, for taking advantage. And I will say this. Those errors that the Giants made, that's because at least the Mets are putting the ball in play. Okay? I know analytics world wants to tell you that strikeouts are no big deal and all we need are home runs and walks. It's nonsense. Okay? Analytics is ruining Major League Baseball. We know this. However, good for the Mets. A bunch of guys put the ball in play. Bichette put the ball in play. Carson Benj put the ball in play. Luis Robert Jr. putting the ball in play. Simeon putting the ball in play. Alvarez putting the ball in play. Vientos has been on fire putting the ball in play. Mark Vientos, whom, by the way, you go back and listen to my shows in the spring and in the winter, what I say, do not give up on this guy. he should have every opportunity to be the first baseman of the Mets. Now, David Stearns, supposed genius, did not have the courage of his convictions and instead signed Jorge Polanco, who's never played first base a day in his life, to be the first baseman. Until it got to spring training, it was painfully obvious that he is not ready to play Major League first base. And so they were going to put Beatty there, DH Polanco, DH Vientos, and/or play him at first base, some only against lefties. That was the early plan. Except Polanco was banged up a little bit with an Achilles. Beatty had to miss a game with a jammed thumb. And so Vientos started getting a lot of playing time, and lo and behold, he's hit extremely well so far. And, by the way, has looked pretty good playing first base. And I said that in the offseason, too, that there's no earthly reason why Mark Vientos can't at least be a competent first baseman. No reason. His biggest issues at third base were the fact that he's a big guy. You know, he's like 6'4", 230. He doesn't have the best footwork. He doesn't have the best range. He has a killer arm. He's got a great arm. And he's got quick hands. He just doesn't have, he's not super agile and doesn't have a ton of range. Well, at first base, that's less important. First base, you want basically two things. You want a first baseman who can scoop balls and save errors on bad throws. And you want a guy who can make a good throw to second base to start a 3-6-3 double play. And/or throw home accurately as well. As we've all seen, the Mets had two first basemen that had issues doing that. In Lucas Duda first, cost them a World Series against the Royals, and then most recently, Pete Alonso. So, you know, David Stearns, Mets fans lost their minds because they didn't even make an offer for Pete Alonso. I was okay with that. You want to let Alonso walk because you don't think that signing a one-dimensional player who's going to be 31 and 36 at the end of a 5-year contract is good business? That's okay. Have the courage of your convictions, though. See, what good and well-run organizations do is they let that guy walk, and then they replace him with a ready-made, cheap, in-house replacement. And in that case, that would be Mark Vientos. See, but David Stearns didn't do that. He kind of threw a bunch of shit against the wall and hoped that it stuck, with picking up Bo Bichette to play third base, even though Bo Bichette's never played third base before in his life. And this idea that you just assume that, oh, well, he was a shortstop, so he can play third base, is ridiculous. Now, he's got good hands, but it appears he doesn't have the arm to play third base. And now you've got Brett Beatty in right field with Soto hurt because they moved Carson Bench to left field. Are the Mets insane? What are they seeing from Brett Beatty that I'm not seeing? They think he's some quick twitch athlete that should be in right field, particularly at Citi Field and in San Francisco too, by the way. Two of the biggest, hardest right fields to play in all of Major League Baseball. Carson Bench is a much better athlete than Brett Beatty, and is actually an outfielder, unlike Brett Beatty, who's not. He's a corner infielder. Yes, I understand. The Mets shoehorned him into some outfield in the minors and a little bit at the Major League level last year, but he's much more suited to play third base. He's a much better fielder at third base than Bo Bichette is. So it's a very poorly constructed roster. It's some good names out there. Bo Bichette was a nice name to get. He's a great hitter with runners in scoring position, supposedly. Although, not supposedly, he is. He's a lifetime .330 hitter. So off to a slow start, whatever. Not a big deal. We talked about it last week. I'm not worried about his hitting. But he's basically a DH now. Polanco's basically a DH now. So your two big offensive moves are picking up guys to put them at positions that they're not comfortable with because they've never played there and are probably better served as DHs now. And then your other one was trading for 35-year-old Marcus Semien, who had an 0-for-20 stretch to the surprise of absolutely no one. His last 2 years offensively, we've talked about this in the past for Texas, 660 OPS, terrible. I mean, worse than Jeff McNeil. Yes, I understand he's a good defender. Okay. Again, this isn't 1985. Second baseman can't be all glove, no hit anymore. Those days are gone. And the other thing that Mets did last year that drove me crazy was they moved Brendan Nimmo out of the leadoff spot and hit him cleanup of all places. First of all, Brendan Nimmo's superpower was getting on base. What made him a special player was his ability to get on first base. Yes, he gave you some pop, which is nice at the leadoff, out of the leadoff spot. But Brendan Nimmo should only ever hit leadoff. And guess what? Texas figured that out. And yes, I understand it's early, but he's hitting about 380 at a leadoff spot. I mean, everything the Mets do, I disagree with pretty much. From their batting order to the way they manage, even with this latest Soto injury. They played shorthanded for 3 games while they figured it out. He had a calf strain. Immediately put him on the IL, please, and stop dicking around. I mean, Mendoza himself said it. Calf strains are tricky. Yeah, we all know this. We've seen it. We've seen it lead to way worse injuries, like blowing out your Achilles. And I'm not the biggest Soto fan in the world, but I don't think it's a good idea for him to blow his Achilles out and miss the whole season. I mean, the Mets just don't seem to really make smart decisions as an organization. Now, look, they're 6-4. You take that. Again, 3 straight wins over what looks to be a very bad Giants team. I get it. It's early. I mean, the Brewers looked terrible last year to start the year, too, when they got blitzed by the Yankees and ended up winning, 90-something games and making the playoffs. So I get it. Pump the brakes. The Giants lineup looks like it might be okay, at least the top. The first 4 guys in that lineup are not bad, with Adames, Arise, Matt Chapman, who's a little past his prime, and Devers. But, they've got Devers playing first base. I mean, he's a perfect example how you can't just put anybody at first base. I mean, there was a play in that Mets game where Matt Chapman made a low throw. It's a throw that any credible first baseman scoops, and it's an out. Vientos hit a rocket down the third baseline. Chapman made a great play on it to keep it from being an RBI double. But then the throw was low. It was a one-hopper. Devers didn't even come close to scooping it. So the third baseman gets dinged with the error because the throw was in the dirt. By the way, that's the other thing. Official scoring. Can we use common sense, please? That error should be on Devers, not on Chapman. And this idea now where a ball is a pop-up to the outfield and nobody catches it, even though it should have been caught, gets ruled a hit. They should introduce a new statistic called a team error. But anyway, I digress. The positives for the Mets so far, starting pitching has been very good. Peralta, not very good in his first start. He's pretty good in his second start. McClain has been okay, not great. Senga has been very good in both of his starts. Peterson gave you 1 good start, 1 bad start, and Clay Holmes has been very good in both of his starts. So the starting pitching has been very good so far. Again, very early. And the bullpen has been very good also. And they had to be used a lot early in the season because, A, the Mets baby their pitchers in and let them throw more than like 75 pitches, their starters, and B, they had 2 extra inning games. But the bullpen has been pretty good too. Devin Williams, so far, so good. Fingers crossed. He's been okay. I mean, he hasn't given up any runs yet. He hasn't been lights out. He's had some guys on base, a couple of walks, a couple of hits here and there. But he's managed to negotiate through it. Luke Weaver, the other Yankee reliever the Mets picked up in the offseason, has looked pretty good. Brooks Raley has looked outstanding so far, but this one I understand. He's 37 years old. He's coming off Tommy John surgery. He pitched late in the season for the Mets last year. The Mets do not want to use him in back-to-back games early to start the year. I'm okay with that. That makes sense, given his age and injury history. And Tobias Myers, whom the Mets got back in the Freddie Peralta trade, has looked excellent. I mean, he was the hard luck loser in that game against the Cardinals on a bloop hit to right field that was in the air for an hour and a half. I don't know how Carson Bench didn't catch it. Well, I know how. He got a terrible jump and then took a bad route. But in that game, the Mets had runner on second, nobody outs in the ninth, couldn't score. Runner on second in the 10th, the ghost runner couldn't score. Bases loaded, 1 out in the 11th, couldn't score. Very frustrating game to lose. So overall, I get it. It's early. I think I predicted this a while ago. I think you're going to see by June a completely different alignment with the Mets. I think you'll, hopefully, anyways, what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Vientos playing a lot of first base, Polanco DHing, Beatty playing first base, I guess playing some outfield. I mean, and look, if Benj continues to struggle, I think he's 1 for 30 to start his major league career. Perhaps the Mets send him down. You make Beatty the everyday right fielder. I don't get it, but that's what they're going to do. Soto's going to be out for a while, so, until Soto comes back, let Benj try to work through this. And if he's still struggling mightily, send him down. Talkman still won't be ready by then. The Mets have Tommy Pham, I think, about to start playing for their AAA team. They've moved Ryan Clifford, one of their top prospects, to the outfield this year, another lumbering first baseman. I don't understand what the Mets' fascination is with taking lumbering first baseman and moving them to the outfield. I wouldn't say Beatty is lumbering, but he is not athletic enough to play right field in Citi Field. He's not. I don't know what the Mets are thinking there. You could hide him in left, but certainly not in right field. But I want Vientos getting a lot of at-bats. I want Polanco DHing most of the time. This batting order is beyond ridiculous. Why is Francisco Alvarez hitting ninth and Carson Bench is hitting eighth? If anything, let Bench hit ninth because at least it gives you some speed and you get a bit of that double leadoff action with him hitting 9 and Lindor hitting leadoff. And Alvarez is a run producer with power. He should not be hitting ninth. Simeon should be hitting ninth. Alvarez should be hitting ahead of Luis Robert Jr. Lindor should not be hitting first. He should hit third. Soto, when he's in there, should hit fourth. I mean, I don't like anything the Mets do with their lineup. Nothing. But, apparently Lindor feels most comfortable hitting leadoff, so he's got to hit leadoff. And the analytics say that your best hitter should hit second. It's funny. How did the Yankees all those years bat Babe Ruth third and win those games? It's strange. And Lou Gehrig hit fourth. How did they win any games? It's not what the analytics say. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. As always, thanks for listening. Check us out also on video on YouTube, Jamal About Sports there, Jamal About Sports on Apple, Jamal About Sports on Podbean. We will have a NFL draft preview show, a mock draft show with old friend of the show, AG, probably next week or the week after, but it'll come out before the draft. Then we'll have a post-draft analysis show where we kind of rank and rate some of the drafts. I'm hoping to have somebody from the world of the NFL. I have a couple of feelers out for guests. We'll see if we can make that happen. So stay tuned for that. But as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, peace out.